begin working on our first map element, establishing a neat line or a border around our map. As I said, you can think of the artboard as the sheet of paper that you're drawing on, and you need to set the artboard at the final size that you want the map to be. But you always need to be aware of what kind of margin you're going to be putting around your map. Especially if you're going to be printing it, you need to be aware that not every printer can print to the very edge of the page. Some special printers can, but most printers that you encounter are not going to be able to print to the very edge of the page. So you want to put a nice comfortable margin around your map so that everything that you draw will be printed. I also mentioned that we're going to be working in layers, and it's very important to organize your map into a bunch of different layers. Just like in a GIS software package where you have a bunch of different layers for different kinds of data, you can also organize your Illustrator document in a very similar way. It's absolutely essential that you begin to organize your document according to different layers, and you keep it organized. You can think of these different layers as a whole bunch of different transparencies upon which you draw different elements of your map, and then you stack all of the transparencies together for your final project. Looking over here in the Layers window, you can see that there is one layer already in the document, and it's called Layer 1. Whenever I create a new map, the first thing I do is establish the neat line or the border around the map so that I know I have a comfortable margin around the map, and I also know that anything that I draw within that border will show up on the final map. So my first layer, and it ends up being the bottommost layer of my map, I like to call Frame. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to click on the name so it's no longer Layer 1, and I'm going to call it Frame. There's nothing on this layer right now, it's just one transparent sheet. So let's go ahead and start drawing on it. To draw a frame, I'm going to use the Rectangle tool over here in my main toolbar. You can see that if I click the Rectangle tool and then come over here to the artboard, I can start to draw any size rectangle that I want simply by holding it down. I'm going to delete those by using the Selection tool here, dragging over all of those rectangles and pressing Delete. What I want to have is one nice, neat rectangular frame to go around my map. So I could try to freehand this. I could select the Rectangle tool and then draw out and draw this rectangle on the artboard. But I don't want to just freehand this. I want to be very careful and I want to be very precise about the frame that's going to go around my map. So I'm not going to freehand it like that. I'm going to go back to the Selection tool, select the frame, and then press Delete. There's another option if you just click the Rectangle tool, and that's to press down once. Instead of dragging out to draw a rectangle, if you just click once, it will bring up a dialog box for you to choose exactly what size you want that rectangle to be drawn. Let's say that I want to have a 1/2 inch margin around the entire map. Therefore, I need to draw a rectangle that has a width of 10 inches, and I want to have a height of 7.5. There. Now I've very precisely drawn a rectangle that is exactly the right size in order to put 1/2 inch around the entire map. And now I can position this frame in the center of the artboard. But as you might expect, I also want to be more precise than just freehanding the center of the artboard. I want to make sure that the frame is perfectly aligned in the center of the artboard. Okay, well, how do I do that? Well, let me tell you that one of your best friends in Adobe Illustrator for doing cartography is going to be the Align palette, the Align tools. So here I have mine up here, right here, where I like to keep them. But remember, if you don't see the Align tools here or anywhere else on your screen, you can go to Window and then drop down here and choose Align if it's not checked, and it will appear on your screen. Let me show you how the Align tool works. Although it's very similar to alignment in Microsoft PowerPoint or in Apple's Keynote or any of those other kinds of programs that you might have used an Align tool. It's going to help you out a whole lot. Let me just do a couple of boxes here. Let's say I've got this rectangle and I've got this rectangle right here, and I would like for them both to be center aligned. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this selection tool right here to select both of these different rectangles, and then I've got all these different alignment options. If I wanted them to be horizontally aligned, I can click right here and they will line up perfectly horizontally. If I wanted them to be left aligned, I'd click here and they will line up perfectly to the left. If I wanted them to be right aligned, I would click over here and they will line up perfectly on the right. This is going to be an extremely useful palette of tools for you whenever you're doing cartography. That's basically the theory behind alignment. That way you don't have to freehand making sure everything is in a straight line or everything is perfectly centered. Everything will line up perfectly for you if you use these tools. But in this case, let me delete those, I'm not trying to get this particular square for the frame to line up to anything else. I'm trying to get it to line up to the artboard. So let me show you a little secret right here. Over here on the Align Tools palette, I've got this option here, Align To. So let me show you the drop-down list here. Align to Selection. That's exactly what I was using here a moment ago to get those rectangles to align to one another. But I'm going to drop down here to go to Align to Artboard, okay? And then I'm going to go to Horizontal Align, and I'm going to go to Vertical Align. Now you probably saw that rectangle move just a little bit each time I pressed one of those buttons, because this time it's using the Align palette to align that rectangle to the artboard. Now this way I can guarantee that this frame that I'm setting up for my map is giving me exactly a ½ inch margin on all sides of my map. Then I'll start to draw everything on my map inside here. Now, once you're here, I'm going to make sure that I go back to Align to Selection. That way I don't get messed up as I use my alignment tools later on. Alright, that's the very basics of setting up the frame. Next thing we're going to do is start looking at how we change colors and how we start to manipulate the layers.